Question. Kim, I have a valid question I kept at the back of my head. It is that, how can you have sex without desire? I'm pretty sure desire is a source of suffering. And if I'm with someone and I don't desire them, how can it turn into anything more than the absence of desire? Well, I assume a question like this comes from a Eastern spiritual background, possibly Buddhist background, where the Buddha said, the first noble truth, life is suffering, the cause of suffering is wrong desire. Remember, he said wrong desire, he didn't say all desire. So I think it's necessary to make a distinction between two kinds of desires. And there are, we can say, there are desires that can be fulfilled, there are desires that cannot be fulfilled. So, I have talked in many of my videos, I've talked about, we have the two states of mind we can be in. We can see ourselves as connected to our higher selves, or we can see ourselves as separate beings. When we go into separation, we feel incomplete. And this means that all of the desires that spring from the duality consciousness, the separate sense of identity, they can't actually be fulfilled. And you can just look at the world and you can see, now we're talking about sex, see how many people in the modern world have this desire for sex, and they are seeking to fulfill it by having multiple partners, by having more and more sex and this and that. There's not the restrictions on sexual activity that there was, say, 100 years ago. But look at these people. Have they fulfilled their desire for sex? For many people it becomes an addiction where they can't get enough of it. And that's one way to say, talk about addictions, is that it's born out of a desire that cannot be fulfilled. So you're constantly chasing some kind of relief from the tension. So, you have an unfulfilled desire for sex. Well, in the few moments before you have an orgasm, or when you have an orgasm, you feel relief from this tension you're feeling. But then, as soon as it wears off, you're back in the tension. And so that's a wrong desire, you might say, because it can't be fulfilled. And so you could say, in terms of sex, if your desire for sex is based on this, basically you can say in separation, the real problem you're having in separation is you lost the connection to your higher self. Therefore you feel alone, feel abandoned, you feel unwhole, incomplete. And all the desires you have in separation are an attempt to compensate for this. So that you either you think you can achieve it somehow, by this perfect union with this other person in sex, or you can at least get relief from it. But it's never going to work. And that's why I'm saying this is not a constructive desire, because it keeps you on a treadmill of wanting more and more and more, and you never get there. You're like the old drawing of a cart with a donkey pulling the cart, and the man is sitting on the cart with a long stick with a carrot that's hanging in front of the nose. And then the donkey keeps running, thinking it's going to catch up to the carrot, but it never will, because it's pushing the carrot in front of itself as it's running. The faster it's running, the faster the carrot is moving. So, so this is that. But beyond that, you could say, the I Am Presence, your higher self, sent you, the conscious you, into embodiment because it had certain desires that it wanted to fulfill on earth. And the I Am Presence can have a desire for the activities you can do on earth, and sex is one of them. So I'm not saying that there isn't a, what should we call it, constructive desire for sex, where the I Am Presence simply want to experience this. But the thing is, this is not an unfulfillable desire. The desires that spring from duality, they are deficit desires. They come from this sense that you are incomplete and unwhole. But the I Am Presence doesn't have those kind of desires. They only arise when the conscious you goes into separation. So the I am presence can have a fulfillable desire for sex, which means that after some time, after probably a number of embodiments, the I am presence can feel, that's enough. I've experienced what I wanted to experience in that particular field. May have other desires for doing other things on earth, may have several desires at the same time, and so forth. But you also have to say that the I am presence has creative desires for what it wants to bring forth on earth, what it wants to do on earth. It's not just a matter of experiencing. But anyway, so what I'm back to the question here, I'm pretty sure desire is a source of suffering. Well, I believe that comes from a misinterpretation of what the Buddha said. It's not all desire. You can play with the words a little bit and say desire means deity sires. In other words, your I am presence has a desire. In a sense, the creator, when it started our world of form, had a desire to be creative, to express itself. And so they are legitimate desires, because why would the creator create anything if it didn't have a desire to create something and see that creation unfold? Why would your spiritual parents create your I am presence if they didn't have a desire to create a new being and to see it grow? Why would the I am presence send you into embodiment, the conscious you, if it didn't have a desire to grow? So there are desires that are legitimate, that are oriented towards growth. And so, again, back to the question. I'm pretty sure desire is a source of suffering. No, an unfulfillable desire is a source of suffering. A fulfillable desire is not the source of suffering. It's a sort of enjoyment, source of enjoyment, or it can also lead to a point where it's saturated. And if I'm with somebody and I don't desire them, how can it turn into anything more than the absence of desire? Well, yes, of course, if you don't have a desire for sex, but is that because you are suppressing it, because you spiritually have this spiritual idea that it's wrong? There are many, many spiritual teachings, especially in the East going way back, but also in the West, of course, that says that sexual desire is wrong, it should be suppressed. And I think there are many spiritual people throughout the ages who have bought into this and decided to suppress their sexual desire, and they spend as much energy and attention on suppressing their sexual desires as if they were in a committed relationship and just had sex at certain intervals. But what I'm trying to get to is this. You can have a legitimate desire for sex, but it may be that there comes a point in your life, whether it's this lifetime or a future lifetime, where it's fulfilled, it's saturated. You can also have other desires. You can say if you're in a committed relationship and you want to get close, feel close to your partner, then sex is one way to do this. It's not the only way, it's not a guaranteed way, but it's certainly one way to do it. You can say that you're in a physical body, there are certain things you have to do with the physical body that aren't necessarily that pleasant, but there are also certain enjoyable things you can do with the body, and sex is one of them. So you can again say, is it anti-spiritual to have a sexual desire? Well, yeah, if it's an unfulfillable desire, if you are addicted to sex, then obviously that's not going to promote your spiritual growth. But if you are at a point where the sexual desire doesn't eat up a lot of your time and energy and attention, then I don't think it really slows down your spiritual progress. And it's again this, if you why not enjoy the activities you can do with the physical body while you're in the physical body? Unless you come to a point where you realize something else is more important for you. There's nothing wrong with that either. But I'm just saying, what I see in a lot of spiritual people is that you build this mental construct that, oh, sex is wrong. Or for that matter, enjoying anything in the material world is wrong. It's anti-spiritual. And so you're back to this the Victorian age, where a young woman was married and now she was asking her mother what to do on the wedding night. And her mother's advice was, close your eyes and think of old England. And this is what many spiritual people do, basically close your eyes and think of enlightenment. But my view today, I had some of that when I was younger, but my view today is, why not enjoy life, enjoy the activities you're doing, or don't do them? If I didn't enjoy it, I wouldn't do it, whatever it is. And if I feel that I'm saturated with a certain activity on earth, there are many activities that I've stopped doing that I did when I was younger, that I've selected away. But again, it's this, basically what I've come to over the years is that I'm not forcing my spirituality. I'm not forcing myself to live up to some kind of spiritual ideal. When I was younger, I had all these outer ideas that I picked up from various spiritual teachings and movements. This is how you're supposed to be as a spiritual person. And I was trying to force myself into living up to them. And now I got to a point where I don't force myself to do anything. I'm not putting on a facade. I'm not trying to pretend. I'm not trying to force myself to be something I'm not.